Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, my friend. How are you today?
How you doing? The endless litany of hoodies continues.
Yeah, it is
It's almost
endless,
like
isn't it?
a Wisconsin font.
Uh, it is. I guess it kind of is, yeah. But Wisconsin's Badgers. This is Westwood High School. These are the Cardinals.
Yeah. What's new? How you doing?
Good. Yeah. New Year's getting off to a good start. You?
Hanging in there. Looking forward to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there's a Monday night football game now, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, Monday.
the Rams are playing whoever they're playing. Um, which is
I
a
think the
team that.
Vikings.
Yes. Yeah. Good call.
Um, yeah, I've kind of been tuned out the last 3 or 4 weeks. It'll be good to kind of watch something that matters. And I think college football is going to be pretty good matchups.
Finally, it seems like because the playoffs have been, I think some people would say, a bit one-sided.
I
But
would say
these games,
underwhelming.
yeah, underwhelming. I mean, not what people expected, all that kind of stuff. But these two matchups seem more of a level playing field, I would say, than what's occurred already.
Well, this is the kind of the four matchups that we could have gotten, excluding Oregon, if it was just the old system. It was just like the four teams that make it.
Meh.
Like
The four teams that made it, it would have been top four. So I think it would have been Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, and
what?
Boise State obviously wouldn't be in, so probably Texas.
Yeah, but I don't think Boise in the old system. I don't think Boise State's making it over
Correct. That's what I'm
Ohio.
saying. I think
Yeah,
Texas is in instead of that. Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, today we got "On the Road" by Jack Kerouac,
Yeah.
um, published in 1957. On the Road by Jack Kerouac is a semi-autobiographical novel that captures the spirit of the 1940s and 50s American counterculture. The story follows the adventures of the narrator, Sal Paradise, and his friends, most notably Dean Moriarty, as they embark on a series of cross-country road trips. Sal, an aspiring writer who was inspired by Dean, a charismatic and restless wanderer to seek freedom and meaning through the spontaneous travel.
Have Did you read this before? Was this like a
Never.
high school reading?
No.
I can't.
Obviously, you hear about it on every list. Did you
Yeah,
did you read it?
I can't remember. Honestly, I was like trying to
Oh
think and
wow.
find familiarities, and the book itself was familiar. I mean, I owned it. It was like on my bookshelf, but I just don't. I never got a recollection that, oh yeah, I've read this before. It could have been,
Uh,
but yeah, it just never nothing clicked in terms of familiarity.
yeah. Only familiarity and name recognition. Obviously, no familiarity with the text. Um, it's on every like Great American Novel list, great best novels of the last, you know, 75 years, or probably when I was reading the list last 50 years. Not really what I was expecting.
What were you expecting? You were expecting something good?
um, I I liked reading the sentences,
Okay,
if that makes sense. Do you kind of get
kind
what
of.
I'm hinting at?
Yeah, like not the story, but the words.
Yes.
Okay.
The story is meandering is generous.
Yeah. No, I mean
And
this
go ahead.
this is like the quintessential book of that time period. I think I just hate that time period.
Yeah, it's I didn't know how of an age it was. I thought it was like kind of more like a growing you know, boy becomes man through this, and it's kind of like, you know, progression into adulthood through the it's just very chaotic. And but it is on all these lists. This is what I
I know.
don't like, this is what I want to get into is like, why is this on every great American novel list?
I
Why is this?
I think like two reasons. One, I think it's like kind of sign of the times, where if you want to talk about that decade from, call it like post World War II,
Yeah,
right? So we're talking about 1947 or so, up
yeah,
into, call it late 50s, definitely not the 60s yet. I think it's
yeah,
like the book of that time,
yeah.
which is kind of strange, but I think it's the book of that time, number one. Number two, I just feel like it makes all these reading lists because everybody has read it, because it's like teenage angst, right? Like get out, go see the world. It's a big blue world out there. You got to go see it. You got to go do it. You got to like live free and all that hippie kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I think that's how it got very, very popular.
I wonder if it just got popular
Because
when
it
like
came out in 57, you
came
said.
out 57 takes place from 46. The book takes place from like 46 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it was just kind of when large scale public schools were forming their curriculum, and they were like, let's put this in for high school juniors as they enter the world, and it's got a little bit of uh, it's a little scandalous in terms of having the drug use,
Yeah.
the
That's what I was
constantly
saying
referencing
for the
sex. Like it's
time. Like
very
if this was like out and about in 57, so it really like probably kicked up in popularity in the 60s. That's like hippie time. That's like, one love, drugs are cool, no responsibilities, just get out there, kind of live your life and do your thing. So I think that definitely hit in the time period that it was out, which was the 60s.
and it's probably because like in that time, like, oh my gosh, they're talking about drug use, they're talking about uh you know premarital sex, like this is scandal, like this, and then obviously that draws attention. That people don't look away from that stuff, people go
Yeah,
towards that stuff.
different than everything. That's why this book. So we had started this whole thing with books for dad's books. I don't think this is one.
I think that's totally
I
fair.
think every dad who read this probably had this as like a high school assignment, not like I just picked this up and read it on the beach kind of thing.
Yes, this is definitely not a beach read. I think this is also just because probably every dad has read it doesn't mean it's a dad book,
Correct.
like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Why did they read it kind of thing?
but I did mention to my dad that I'm reading it, and I was like, it's like the beatnik move. Like I don't know the beat,
Yeah.
and then it's the beat movement. The people who follow the beat movement are the beatniks. I'm like, so they do have some relationship with this book, with this culture, with this time frame.
I would say this book, this culture, this time frame had a cult following that wasn't just in that time period. Like I bet you we could find contemporaries who love this book, and they're probably feeling different about it now in like their mid 30s than they did in their teens or their late 20s. But I can remember like thinking back or just talking to people about things. There are a lot of people who this book was like, you know what Into the Wild is for some people, more of
Yes.
our generation. I feel like that.
Into Wild is the Christopher McCandless, John Krakauer book of
Correct.
the
Guy
school
just goes
bus in Alaska.
goes to the wilderness looking for freedom, looking to get away from it all. I would compare that closely to this one for that generation, for that time period it came out.
Yes, I read Into the Wild, and I thought that was a phenomenal book. I didn't relate with the character, which you would kind of think if you relate with the character, you think this book is phenomenal. I
Yeah.
didn't love the protagonist Christopher McCandless that much, but I love that book because I love John Krakauer, and we'll get to some of his books as we progress. But I just want to touch on some of these plaudits for On the Road. The New York Times hailed the book's appearance as the most beautifully executed, the clearest, and the most important utterance yet made by the generation. Kerouac himself named years ago as Beat, and whose principal avatar he is. So he kind of identified. He was like the figurehead or the
Yeah.
facade of this Beat movement.
Yes, definitely. I mean, his name just resonates to that time period. I can't think of too many other authors that had this type of following. especially from that period.
Now, do you think if we liked the period more, we'd like the book more?
Do you think if we'd like the period more, we'd like, yeah, for sure. Or even more so than that, if we were like, I can probably count the times on both my hands that I've been on an airplane. Like traveling isn't for me. Like nothing appeals to me about hitting the road, getting in a car for 10, 12, 15 hours day after day. It doesn't appeal to me at all. That to me isn't like, it's not living to be free or anything like that.
Yeah, you don't have that itch.
No, not at all. Never have.
No, neither do I. I don't have it either. I was shocked by how few times they're like, we are so bored in this car traveling so far. They crisscross the United States 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, several times.
And there's nothing. There was like, oh, we got stuck in a muddy ditch, and now we're in New York. I'm just like, what happened between San Francisco and New York?
5 days, no eating, barely sleeping. The navigation is what impressed me the most. The fact that they are actually doing these things with maybe a map and some directions, probably from like a couple people. That's kind of crazy to think about.
Do they ask for directions once in this book?
In the book, not once.
Yeah.
I can't remember once. And I was thinking about that. Like, it doesn't mention like getting a map at a gas station or looking at a map while they're both in the car. It doesn't mention that at all.
Do they get lost once in this book?
I would say like there was a minor detour that I could think of once where they were going through and they had to backtrack to get back to a main road. But I wouldn't even call that lost.
So that kind of like, it's hard to, as I read, I try and highlight stuff and like, okay, this will be fun to bring up. And this, it's just so like the tick of a wheel. It's like there's nothing to grasp onto in terms of the plot, in terms of the direction, in terms of the story arc that I can make, oh, this will be a fun thing to bring up when we talk about it. It's just like, then this and then this, and then he left his wife, and then he got with this girl, and then he got back with his wife, and then he abandoned his family, and then I went back to New Jersey, and then I'm leaving again to the South. Now I'm going out west. Now I want to find Chicago. I'm just like, where is this leading? What is this doing? Is it just supposed to be that ambling of the open road and of the mindset of the unmoored mindset?
Yeah, I think it's much less about the actual story itself, and it's supposed to connect you with the character who is obviously looking for a direction, unsettled in his current life, just, sheet in the wind kind of thing.
Yeah.
And again, for a lot of people, I think that character resonates with them when they were a teenager or they're 20, whatever. At some point in their life, they were that person. For me, it never connected with me. This type of freewheeling, no responsibility, do your own thing kind of mindset.
It's just, but it is. I did not dislike reading it. I disliked the story arc. I disliked the directionless narrative. But I think that's all intentional.
Was there a point in time where you were reading it and like getting through the pages and like enjoying it?
I think if you read this in blocks, like in like the time I liked it the most is when I had 2 hours when little guy was napping and Veronica was doing something. And I could just kind of bang out probably 150 pages of it.
Yeah.
And I just kind of got in the groove of it. When I would pick it up and put it down, pick it up and put it down. This has been the most uniquely identifiable book that we've done about how you read it.
Yeah.
Not like, I thought like when I was in the groove of it, I kind of got into it more.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. I enjoyed reading the end of it. And then there was a section or two when it's so hard to keep track of all like the women and kids and stuff like that and where he was.
I
think he was in New Mexico with a young girl who had a kid, and he spent like a decent amount of time there, and her family wasn't that far away. I think that was in Mexico. The main
that's in the very beginning of the book. He like meets her on a bus. Yeah. That was pretty good.
Yeah. So that and the end when they were back actually in Mexico. That I enjoyed as well and was reading through. All the Dean stuff, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was trying to think of did I have like a Dean person character in my life? And I feel like I had people who were trying to be that kind of character, but nothing like it.
Trying to be deadbeat vagabonds.
Trying to be Dean specifically, but yeah, like, hey, tomorrow's tomorrow, today is the day, carpe diem, let's go have fun, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, in my mind, who I had for Dean, and I think you love this movie, so was Jude Law from Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yep, that's pretty good.
Like a dirtbag version
Yeah.
of Jude Law from Talented Mr.
Ripley. Homeless dirtbag version. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Because I think Talented Mr. Ripley takes place kind of in the 50s.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And also reading this book, I just couldn't help, like, I had like the first season of Mad Men in my head because I think that takes place in like 57 or 58.
Just post World War II period. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't rewatched first season of Mad Men in probably over 10 years, but yeah. I just, those like Don's mistress who's kind of like the artist and hangs out with the beat crowd. Yeah. And like her boyfriend or the guy who likes her, I kind of had in my mind of someone who would love this book.
Yeah. Yeah. The beginning of it hit me and I remembered it because they were talking about like my area of Jersey, like his aunt.
Yeah, they do.
Jersey, which is right here. So I'm kind of from that area, same proximity, and we're in 2025. Like popping into the city or going over to Long Island is such an enormous hassle for me to think about. The fact that back then they did it just so casually, like popped over in the city and then went back home, it sounds like impossible to me. And I have a million more ways to do it.
Lando, they pop into San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. True. Very true.
Going to the city is going next door.
That's one thing also, like even the first one, like he's going to San Francisco, he's getting on a bus. He goes to upstate New York first. So like he made a massive detour. Actually, that's like maybe the first one.
You're completely right. You're completely right.
He made a huge detour, cut out 6 hours, and then he was like, you know what? Let's just start this over again and do it again. I would have gone right back home, been like, done. That's it. I can't do this anymore.
I think he was like, why did I come up here? Like, this makes no sense. I'm like,
sitting in the rain up in like, I guess it wasn't upstate New York, but wherever he was, like near Bear Mountain, near Poughkeepsie, whatever it was.
Yeah, Newburgh or something like that, or
yeah.
I just want to do a couple more. I want to go over how highly ranked this book is.
Yeah.
In 1998, the Modern Library ranked On the Road 55th on its list of 100 best English language novels of the 20th century. The novel was chosen by Time magazine as one of the 100 best English language novels from 1923 to 2005. Yeah. So I think, go ahead.
It makes me feel like something's wrong with my critical thinking because it is so highly awarded, so highly recognized. I've never gotten it. I've read one of his other books also that I like better than this, but even that didn't hit me all that well.
I didn't have high hopes for it. I was just like, hey, this book is well received, well recognized, kind of just about the male spirit of, kind of, I would say this would be generous, like conquering new things, going out and exploring. Obviously, we've read and will read more exploratory and more.
Yeah, actual exploring. Yeah.
Actual exploring, not just like trying to hit a bar and take home some girls as you travel across country in a beat up Cadillac.
Which when you say it like that, it kind of sounds cool. But the book, it did not seem cool.
I bet it was cool. I bet it was these guys are pretty cool.
I think you're right. I think in that period, that's another thing. You think when he started, so his first trip, he was probably 22.
Wasn't he taking time off college? Wasn't his college break or whatever?
That's what I think so. But then it got into the point where he was actually like writing and publishing. So I assumed he was a little older. And he was on the GI Bills. So I don't know. Who knows how long like he took off to go to the war, whatever. So, all right. Yeah. Let's call him between 18 and 22. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, if you put it in that time frame or that age, I could get it for a weekend or like maybe one trip across the country and then back. But to do it so many multiple times is crazy, I think.
Yeah, like, just go, like from college. Like when you would pick me up when we go to like Massachusetts, I'm like, when we get there, like, whew, trip's done. That's an hour and a half.
I never had the inclination to go to Canada.
No. It just again, but I didn't think the writing was bad. It was just
No, I think he's a good writer. Yeah.
I don't know. You want to give you a grade on it? I think we kind of it's uniquely you can't really break it up and decipher it just because it's so ambling. It's just a mass of misadventures.
Yeah. It's a massive misadventures. This book, like some books of the time period, annoy me more than others, just in a weird way. It's like, I don't know, why couldn't you just like make a phone call and get this done? Or, the technology of the time annoys me usually with some of these things. That didn't for here. I mean, I was kind of like impressed that at that time you could wire money and it
All
seemed
right,
like.
time out. If I get a wire money request from Dean Moriarty, I'm like, get F, dude.
But
get out of my face.
What we consider scams, it's completely normal back then, and they would just do it. Like, hey, I'm in Tucson, Arizona. Can you send me $20, which will get me by for the next month and a half?
I know that whole thing. Yeah, I'm like chuckling reading that part. Like, I need to wire my aunt again. I'm like, what if she says no? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I take back in the bank for the next 3 days. I starve for 3 days, and then I just assume that she's maybe not sending it this time, or my aunt is out of town and didn't receive the wire.
That's one thing actually that if you think about it, like I would say we never experienced it, but the generation before us did. So kids today will have no idea what this was like. Like getting in the car, driving drunk, totally cool. Totally fine. Like cops, totally all right with it. At worst, they like maybe take your keys away and tell you to sleep it off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is so. I mean, that we'll never see that again, and people will have no idea in one more generation, but no idea that ever existed. So that's pretty interesting in the book too.
Yeah, and like the times the cops are like, "Hey, follow us to the station." And
Yeah, gotta ask you some questions.
Yeah, so like, all right, lead us away. Oh, and we'll drive in our car.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about this yet, but hitchhiking and doing that like leasing car service where you basically get hired to drive somebody's car somewhere just to kind of like fill up the miles. That's kind of crazy stuff too that we're just never going to see again, and most people won't imagine that existed to the extent that it did.
Yeah, they're like, we picked up hobos. They had 23 cents on them for gas.
Or they would pick up guys just for a story, just because they're just talking to themselves for days and days. So you just pick somebody up just to hear their story.
Yeah, I guess because we obviously read the end of the book more closely to us recording than we do the beginning of the book. But a lot of the beginning of the book, you're like, what is going on with this hitchhiking culture?
Yeah, I can't imagine it, but I guess it was a thing. I also think about that too, in terms of like the web or the network of roads in the United States. There must have been a whole lot less roads back then, where it was just a few major roads that everybody kind of knew about.
Yeah, Eisenhower built the interstate system in like the late 50s, I believe.
So late 50s, so even before this then. Yeah. So there was fewer than probably more than a handful, but there was a reason why he would go to Denver every time, I think, because you had to go to Denver. in order
Yeah.
to go.
I don't know what the United States intracontinental road system
Right.
looked like before the expansion of interstates, and
Yeah.
like I think Route 66 was like a big thing, like getting
Yeah.
kicks on Route 66 because it's just like that's the one that gets you out west.
Probably right around this time or just like a bit later. That was probably like more the 50s. I feel like you hear about those songs and people talking about it. But yeah, that's a southern way to get west, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean honestly, I don't know. This is just what I kind of have picked up from what I can.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've driven straight through Pennsylvania a handful of times. I think that's like 3.5, 4 hours.
no interest.
Texas or Nebraska
No,
or
no,
any
no
of the
interest.
other Western states that they got through.
I also think this is like a big time East Coast mindset that like we can go to so many states so quickly and go to like a big city so quickly. Because if
Yeah,
you're from Iowa, Nebraska, like, oh, I want to go to Chicago, I want to go to a big city. This is a 6 or 7 hour drive.
yeah, that's true. We have little states with little areas over here. But it just got me thinking just now as we're talking, it reminds me of the Western book that we read where they were
The
going
Blood
after
and Thunder.
in the West. Yeah. Where it's like, all right, it'll take 2 days to get from this spot to this spot. Whereas we're talking about 100-year difference, roughly 120, 130-year difference in these two books.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like you're not just going once a month to get across the country, you're doing it in 5 days in a car. It's crazy the difference between those two time periods.
That is crazy. I'd almost rather go on horseback.
I think you say that, but
Yeah, I do say that. 100%. You're totally fair to call me on that.
One more twist though, it got to be a manual car, right? So you're not just an automatic like this, but cruise control. You're turning it, probably not power steering, so you're
no power steering, no power brakes. Yeah. Here I'll qualify. I'd rather do 1 day on a horse than 1 day on
yeah.
a day in a car.
You'd rather go for a horseback ride than a cross country drive.
I think so. I just think I'd be like, just the monotony, just like cornfield, straight like.
For you, I mean, without music, podcasts, something to listen to, I don't think you'd do it.
They don't have music or podcasts.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do that. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I couldn't.
Like driving in a car by yourself, I don't think you could do it.
I hate driving in a car with anyone when there's not music on.
Yes. I did one time when I had a car. I guess this was after college. Radio broke. Couldn't get it fixed. Didn't have smartphone. So I went up to like Massachusetts. It was like a 4-hour drive, just solo, just in my own thoughts. It's not easy. It is like work to like do math in your head of like counting miles and miles and stuff like that.
You know, like in those cartoons when like someone's like locked in like Bugs Bunny's in like solitary confinement and then comes out and he's got like the purple eyes and like bloodshot eyes and he's like his hair is all stringy, like
yeah, you look physically beat up.
Yeah. Obviously this is a quick little. Have you read Catcher in the Rye? That's the media book that I kind of associate with this book.
I would too. Same time period. It has that same type of cult following, love effect, and yeah. I feel kind of similar about the two.
I love Catcher in the Rye much more than On the Road. But quick thing, yeah, Catcher in the Rye was published in 1951. Again, same time period, and that disillusioned narrator / protagonist is very similar.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Final thoughts and grades. Got anything you want to move to grade?
Final thoughts. I feel like this is becoming less of a must read as the years go by. Final thought. Whereas I think when we were in high school or even grammar school, like this was on the reading list. And that's why I think it's familiar to me because back then I didn't read the books that we were told to read. You just kind of skim through it and get by. I think this is becoming less of a must read as years go by.
I think that is a fantastic final thought. I completely agree. Less of a must read, less of a, prominent face of those must-read lists.
Yeah. And it's not just, I mean, some books hold up the test of time. I just feel like this one, in this time period, maybe in more particular, doesn't.
It's not going to leave like the, hey, this is part of American history, but I just think it's. I mean, you could argue a lot of books are just losing relevance and losing.
I guess you could. Yeah, if we think about it more so. Not really the books that we've covered so far, but we've covered. Well, yeah, I'll say that for something that's so awarded and so highly rated, there's probably less books that won't stand up.
I think the books that are less likely to stand up are so much of a time. This book is the biggest book we've read that's of a time. Like,
and it was an in between.
Streets of Fire will stand up.
Yeah,
it stood up 10 years ago. Will stand 10 years in the future. Will stand up 40 years in the future.
Right. But it's also it's a strange time period too, right? Because it's post World War II, so you have World War II before that, and then you have the 60s right afterwards. So I feel like it's a strange period in that late 40s and 50s period.
Yeah, watch Mad Men.
Yeah, Mad Men's good. I'm trying to think what else from that time period is very good. I don't know. I think the Yankees were pretty freaking awesome in the 50s.
Yeah, Mickey Mantle.
Yeah. All right. In terms of my grade, if I'm looking at the rubric, I'm probably doing like 4.2.
Yeah. I'm going double nickels 5.5.
Okay.
I thought it was good writing. It was good writing.
Yeah, short book, but doesn't read short. I'll say that. There's certainly not like details that you need to like really read to continue the story. So you can kind of fly through this if you want. Like if you miss a couple pages or even a chapter, you're not missing much.
Okay. Yeah. It's just repetitive or misadventures. Next book is 1776, David McCullough, That Is Planned. What I want to tell you, little news, drum roll.
Okay.
An author has agreed to come on.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I kind of was perusing social media and found some cool thriller accounts and like spy thriller accounts and publishers, and just follow people who follow that account and followed some authors. A couple followed me back and said, like, this looks like a cool idea, what you guys are doing. And his name is Steve Stratton. I want to give you his bio and we can kind of talk about it. Steve was awarded his Green Beret in 1986. From the 80s through 2000, he deployed with the 20th Special Forces on counter-drug and training missions in Southcom region. His civilian contractor time includes time for U.S. CENTCOM, U.S. SOCOM, and several intelligence agencies. Today, he's retired but advising cybersecurity companies that support the warfighter and intelligence community. When he's not writing, you can find him mountain biking, trout fishing, or hunting in Colorado. His first novel, Shadow Tear, was named 2003 Bronze Medal winner by the Military Writers Society of America.
Have you heard of it or read it?
I have not.
Neither have I.
Yeah. So I think we should, if an author wants to come on, I think we don't pass up the opportunity.
Yeah, and it sounds like a very interesting book, cool topic.
Yeah.
Time period.
Now
fiction?
He's coming out with a new book.
Is it fiction?
Fiction, yeah. It's just like, it's very Tom Clancy. It seems very Tom Clancy.
Oh, okay, cool.
Esque.
Right.
Yeah, Jack Reacher, Lee Child, Jack Carr, all these kind of, and so he has 2 books out in the series, and then 1 like pre-novella, and then his new one's coming out in a week. Do you want to read 2 books and then we'll talk about the new one coming out, or do you want to read? We can take this offline, but
is it a series or are these standalone books?
Series.
Okay.
I definitely think. I think the first guy. I think we read everything. I think it should be cool. Just like, hey, let's bang out his 4 books. We'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then have him on the 5th episode.
Sure. Yeah. And even if we don't talk about each individually, we can get through them and then just have that familiarity.
Yeah. So I actually think we still stick with 1776, David
Okay.
McCullough, and then we pick up Steve Stratton's Shadow Tier series after that.
Fine. Okay. So we get a week for McCullough, 1776, and then we jump on that afterwards.
Yeah. And side little news. I'm moving, so hopefully I'll have like a better background. I'll kind of set up like a nice little bookshelf or something to
Yeah. Found something?
rental and back near my hometown.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
A little rental condo, but with another one on the way. Can't be in a one bedroom in the city with
Figured
two babies.
space was getting tight, or if it wasn't getting tight, it would get tight very quick.
Oh, it's been tight for months. Months it's been tight. Lando, every time I open my closet, I have to move a stroller out of the way. And it's just like, you know how you just get used to like the
Yes.
inconveniences that you bring upon yourself?
Yes.
And after a while, I was just like, we gotta move. Like we gotta find something.
Yeah, I think it does finally get to a point where it hits you. And usually that point is when like somebody comes to visit and they look at you like, how are you living like this? Because it doesn't hit you when you're in the moment in it, but when somebody looks at it from the outside, I think it gets to you.
You're bang on. We haven't invited anyone over. We have like, come over for drinks. We're like, well, you just step over 2 strollers in our hallway because and
I can't turn on the TV because the kid's sleeping in the living room.
Correct. Yeah. Don't come over now. Yeah, it's a happy time being here, but we're looking forward to this little condo spot.
Yeah, I mean the city will always be there for visits and things like that.
And now I can bust out of the city when they got the congestion pricing going on.
Good timing. Very good timing.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Good talking with you. We got 17. Oh, little side note on 1776. I'm watching John Adams, the HBO miniseries.
Yeah, with that actor. I forgot his name.
Paul Giamatti.
Yes, I think I watched the first 2 episodes of it and I just faded away. But I would be interested to watch that because I did read a biography about John Adams. I'd be interested to talk about that.
McCullough does a John Adams book.
McCullough does? I was going to say either McCullough or Meacham, and I knew it was one or the other. I have that, read that. That was a pretty interesting biography as well.
Yeah, I was like, is this based on 1776? Then I looked it up on Wikipedia. It's based on John Adams by McCullough.
Yes. Thick book. Thick.
I was like, how many pages is this? It's like 670.
A lot of pages. It's a lot.
Well, this is our full-time job. Maybe I'll do it. I'm not reading. All right, cool. So we got 1776, and then we got Steve Stratton's Shadow Tier series coming up.
Yeah.
And then we're in a good spot because hopefully I would like it because we're moving in March. I would like to have him on beginning of March. I don't know if that gives us enough time, actually.
Yeah. Well, three books, call it 3 to 4 weeks. Give that a month. We'll talk about mid-February or so for that.
Then we'll have him on.
Yeah.
First week in March. Do you want to put one book in between just so we have a little
gap? Well, we got 3. We got 3 right now, so we could wait on that.
Okay. Cool. Let's just worry about it later.
Yeah.
Because I would like to have like just finished with 4 books. Okay. Maybe we'll do 1776 and then Last Kingdom and then this series.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to read Last Kingdom. Very excited.
Let's just do it then. Let's do it because I want to have like a real setup for him when he comes on and look like we're not amateurs.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
And then once we open our mouths, then he'll be like, "Oh, these guys are amateurs."
So 1776, have that, got it. Last Kingdom, excited for that, and then we'll jump into this series. Okay, cool.
Awesome. Take it easy, buddy.
All right, good stuff.
Family.